Hello, and welcome to Monster Monday. On today's episode, I'm going to be doing a monster that's not really a terrible monster, but it's definitely very cool, and there are lots of ways that you can use it in your adventures and campaigns. I'm talking about the Dola. Well, we're back, friends. We're using the Castles and Crusades Monsters and Treasure book because this is an awesome discovery. So the Dola is, in fact, an envoy of a religious deity. I think this is an opportunity to really explore how to use a monster that isn't just an opponent. This is a monster, but it's a monster that you can use to drive adventures and narratives and also character development. And that's why I think it's really cool. So let's look at this Dola and find out a little bit more about it. These spirits are specially chosen or created by the forces of fate and are sent down to the world to guide mortals towards whatever ends the gods desire. The person given a Dola is unaware of this animal, person, or being who is doing this. The Dola spirit will perform certain actions to distract, lure, or alter their subjects' attentions and actions if they're strained from something that might become problematic in their future. This change will be at the right time to persuade the mortal subject to do what was guided by fate. The Dola's form can vary, and it can inherently change shape to fit according to what is needed to continue guiding the subject towards their fate. Because of their lot in life, the Dola cannot get any more involved with the subject's fate than they are and must remain neutral towards them, even if the fated event is terrible. To not do so would attract the attention of the god or goddess that first put them in place and would bring their wrath. Dola will do what is needed to survive, considering their present form at the time. Most of all, they will do what is required to protect their subject if it is part of the fate they are sent to safeguard, even risking their life. Dola can switch between forms as often as needed without any limitations to serve their purpose. Their common forms are men, women, cat, mouse, or even the avatar of a god. These myriad of forms are needed to spy and give guidance to their subject as they go through life. What is a Dola? It's an extraplanar. It's an otherworldly creature, manifestation, being, that is sent by the gods to ensure that a certain fate, which they have seen for a player character, is arrived at. So a Dola can be someone who gently nudges that person towards their chosen fate, or their fate that they didn't choose but the gods chose for them. But the idea is that they are the insurance policy of the gods, right? The Dola is there to basically make sure that the PC doesn't die or suffer a fate that isn't what the gods or goddesses wanted, or that when that fate does arrive, that the PC basically succumbs to that fate, whatever it is. How is this really cool? And how is it not cool? We'll discuss both of those things. I think it's really cool because it basically gives the GM a plot device to kind of build up stories around one of the PCs and connect with that player's backstory for that character in a way, but also kind of integrate some of the overall campaign arcs. So right off the bat, the Dola is much more than just one encounter. The Dola is an ongoing part of your campaign with this specific character. If you wanted to, if divine intervention was a big part of your campaign world, you could have a Dola for every PC. So every player has one of these Dola. A number of years ago, I read a book called The Golden Compass, and it's part of a series. I don't remember what the name of the series is, but in this, every person has what's called a daemon, basically their spirit animal, kind of almost like a familiar in D&D. In some ways, I could see the Dola kind of being part of that, right? That's really cool because it allows the PCs to develop these ideas about their characters. And especially if you're playing something that is more mythic. And I think of things like Mythic Odysseys of Theros. Even if you're not playing in that specific setting, but you've been influenced by Clash of the Titans or Wrath of the Titans or Greek mythology or any kind of mythology that is epic in nature. This could be kind of cool because it goes beyond just a familiar who's assisting someone. The Dola is not, a servant. The Dola is there to make sure that the PC meets the fate that they're supposed to meet. Also, the PC doesn't necessarily know about the Dola, so you can introduce these Dola in very subversive ways initially. In their ability to shape change allows for that. So, maybe the Dola is just a gentle stranger who kind of suggests something, to the PC, knowing that the PC's, likelihood in taking that suggestion will keep them on track towards their fate. You could have that take myriad forms, right? It could be an animal, it could be a person, any NPC, could be the Dola trying to keep the people towards their fate. If your player makes some choices that really isn't in keeping with their character, which players sometimes do, people get silly, they do dumb things, and that's okay. It's a game. But you could use this as a deus ex machina to kind of keep your players on track, with following your campaign arcs and storylines. All right, so those are all ways that the Dola could be used in kind of good or interesting ways. How could this be bad? The Dola could be bad if you as a GM start to use it to railroad your players. In other words, if you use the Dola to take away player agency and choices and just basically force them to follow your storylines, that's not great. And I could see how some GMs could use Dola kind of incorrectly and sort of just force their players to follow this very linear storyline that they want to run in their campaign. I think the trick is looking at the Dola and seeing that the Dola is not a god in and of itself. Like, it can be killed, actually. Their stat block is not that impressive. So it's really more about deciding, like, how do I use this Dola to kind of guide the players towards their destiny, their fate? Well, one way is you could start your campaign by asking your players some simple questions on a questionnaire. Ask them some basic things about what their character goals are. What are their characters afraid of? What do their characters secretly wish for? What do their characters want to be known for? Like, if they were dead, what would be on their tombstone? And you ask some questions, but like maybe in there a few questions that are kind of about fate, or what are their dreams? Like, what do they hope for? And then you build that in, because now you've taken what the player wanted for that character. That's the fate that the player wanted. And you could build that in. And maybe it's slightly different from how they outwardly expected it, right? Because the gods can be trickerous and cruel. You haven't taken away your player agency at that point. You use the Dolas to try to guide the players towards that fate that they've seen for themselves, but you also use the Dolas to steer the players away from making bad choices if that's going to intervene with their fate, right? And maybe their chosen fate was to become like a hero of legend, and there's an adventure where they're about to do something that is kind of out of character and maybe out of alignment, that maybe they're a good person generally, but they're about to do a very wicked thing. And the player is thinking like, well, the ends justify the means. And the Dola would be like, no, like this is going to set you back. This is not who you are. It's not, so then you could kind of use the Dola to sort of challenge some of the decisions that the players are considering making, and even bring up kind of moral and ethical quandaries into your game. All of that said, the Dola and how you can use it is, I think, a remarkable tool overall. It's a monster that you can use to really drive character development, to make your players think about the characters that they are playing, to, in the long term, to really advance the agendas of your players without manipulating and railroading them, but letting player agency happen, but challenging them, I think, with this being, this Dola. And who knows, maybe your player will discover the Dola and discover their true purpose and kill the Dola anyway. And what would that do? Like, that's basically a big FU to the gods. So, how will the gods then respond? And that could create even more exciting storylines and adventures that are character driven by your players and their choices, which I think is really cool. So a lot of opportunities with this very cool creature. Thank you for watching this episode of Monster Monday. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and if you want to support us on Patreon, head on over to patreon.com/BillAllenWorld, where there are a whole bunch of options where you could decide what fits your budgetary constraints. Thank you as always for your support, and I'll see you on the next episode of Monster Monday. Happy gaming.
So, what do you want to do?
Monster Monday.
And then what?
We're doing Monster Mondays. Well, and then a character build.
And then an unboxing.
And then an unboxing. Yeah, actually, that's right, Croft. I see. I told you we have a lot to do today. Okay, ready? Hello and welcome to
I stopped recording.
Rafa, you know what? If I had a wooden spoon right now, I would break it in half and stab you with both pieces.
Well, hello, and welcome to Bill Allen World. I am Wizzy, the Wizard. I'm back once again to remind you to subscribe and click on the notifications button, and also watch videos that are over there. Tune in to the next episode of whatever show you are just watching, and watch other shows featuring Bill. He made me say that because he's a narcissist. Okay, bye.